Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do building the landing is I'm going to take a laser, in this case the Stabila LAX 600G. Cross line, self levels, all that good stuff. Now that I have a perfectly level line, I'm going to find where the top of my platform is minus the subfloor, and then I'm going to make it parallel to that line. That's a way to get a perfectly flat. That is the way to get a perfectly flat deck, regardless of concrete or any other maybe mistakes that we've made. So I'm going to take my total height, which you'll remember from the stairs was 114 3/4, divide that by 2, and then subtract 3/4 for the subfloor. So 5, 6, 56, 10. Now I'm just going to go to each corner, top of my deck, okay, and then off of my laser, we're just going to make that mark parallel. So I got 9 and 5. I'm blocking, Timmy's blocking the laser. 9 and 5/16, top of deck. 9 and 5/16, top of deck, and 9 and 5/16, top of deck. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to snap a line. One of the fundamental rules that I was first taught is that you never trust concrete. Now, sometimes the concrete is just amazing, but it's just best not to trust it. Our old Finnish carpenter said the same thing about framers. I'm not kidding. He goes, I've worked behind some really bad framers, so I've developed techniques to just deal with it. He goes, even if your guys' framing's great, doesn't matter. He's just used to, he can compensate, so he just starts that way. Anyway, blocks between the walls, that's going to help to support this landing. I'm framing the entire thing out of 2x12 for 2 reasons. One, stair landings get a lot of traffic and furniture, things come up and down, kids go running up and down the stairs, right? I want them to feel nice and stiff. Second, we always have 2x12 left over from our roof. I can cut these short pieces out of long 2x12 that just wasn't good enough to be rafters. Additionally, I don't have to put hangers on this because I'm able to get more nails into everything. In all the years that we've been building stairs, we'd never have had to put hangers on these. Never. And I'm not exaggerating that. This is how I was taught to build stairs, was 2x12, for the same reasons that I mentioned. Now later, we're going to fire block all this. I just needed to get this done because I had my physical therapy appointment later. Yeah, when you get to be my age, I highly suggest physical therapy. Don't let your injuries nag you. Like, my knees were kind of getting a little cranky, so it's like, let's get a referral and head to the physical therapist. And it was a very productive appointment. I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, just try to stay healthy. A lot of the stuff like fire blocking, we're going to leave that for later because that's undercover work for either if it's hot, we have shade, or if it's raining, we'll be dry. And that way nobody has to miss work because, boy, springtime, we can get some pretty heavy rain that you just can't work in. Okay, so the stair landing, there's a few ways you can do this, like everything, right? I find that for me, I just prefer doing it this way. I've also built the box on the ground and lifted it into place, but then that takes 2 and or 3 people depending, because a box built of 2x12 isn't the lightest. Okay, now I can frame this 16 on center, or 2 foot on center. I went 16 on center because, again, I want it to be nice and stiff for a landing. I am not matching joists. What I'm trying to do is just make sure that my the dots on my sheathing panel, my Advantech, line up with the joists. Like an idiot, I will show you later, I did not do that, so I still had to eyeball it. That's the thought process. Oftentimes I'll go ahead and I'll build the wall. To my right is where the set of stairs is going to come up. I'll build the wall across that so I don't have to get under there later. But like I mentioned, we're saving this for inside work later. I'll also put a 2x4 underneath that long 2x12. That's going to all stiffen this up. So, why is there a doorway there? I went off the plan number to the stairs. So once that goes in, seven is about there. So it's going to do one of these. But it clearly showed a door. I just looked.
So it's like this will get filled in, and that will be the opening.
So you don't know those quads are so hard.
Unless they want to do like a little half door for underneath, but. Well, we can put a door back here and frame it. Yeah.
That is why all blueprints say that the builder or framer or whomever is supposed to verify measurements on site. The designer, he does the best he can in our case, but what final site conditions are as far as wall heights on the stem walls, as well as the slab and the foam under the slab and all of that. So anyway, okay, so I'm installing this first set of stringers because if the first set of stringers is done, then I can use that to walk up and glue and sheathe and fasten the subfloor on my landing. So the way I do this, because I know that the stringers are going to be structurally screwed to the walls left and right, is I go ahead and I just put blocks between them, mostly just to support the tread itself, but it also does help to support the stringers. Not that it matters. This thing is way overbuilt. Now I'm extending the landing, or the platform. You might think, is this kind of weak? No. And again, the reason is everything gets structurally screwed to the walls. So essentially the stairs are supported by the walls,
Just
not
the
where
level
they
with
land.
my head. Get it?
Yep, I use these liberally. That's a 5-inch Simpson Strong Tie SDWS timber screw. Look up the data, insanely strong. So there I am attaching it to the wall. Underneath the stringers, incidentally, I have a PVC membrane. Under the slab, we have foam insulation. So I'm not worried at all about moisture coming up. We've also got our vapor retarder down there. Now to me, this is where I am way overkill. I have 2x8 risers. I don't need 2x8 risers. It does make the stair a little more expensive. However, my thinking is that plus one extra stringer, so my two middle stringers are basically at the walk line. As somebody goes up and down the stairs, their feet will basically land on those stringers.
That's perfect.
That combined with a 2x8 just makes this thing so strong and stiff. Movement or deflection over time
Either
is
way.
what can cause squeaks. So we've just found that if we go a little overboard
Yeah,
on the
I was hoping
risers, that we don't have to come back and
turn
fix
those
squeaks.
into
It also
sawhorse.
provides really good nailing to the
Yeah,
treads
just anywhere.
themselves.
No, thank you.
Now what I'm using here with the long barrel is the Advantech Subfloor Adhesive. It comes out
Yeah.
as foam. It quickly, as you can see how it's turned dark purple? It's already reducing to gel. And it was, what was the temperature? It was pretty chilly. It was probably 35 degrees at this point. And you can see basically too, when it gets a little chillier, I put the can on the dash and heat it up before I do this. And that just helps it to come out and reduce a little quicker. Okay. 2x8 risers, of course, I always rip them. You saw that in the previous video. I always rip them a little bit short. And the reason is because I don't want them to fully land on the stringer below. It doesn't need to. Now that I think about it, maybe it doesn't matter. I was taught that rip them a little bit shorter, and that way it doesn't rub. I don't know if that really matters, to be quite frank. The lowest one, I definitely want it up off the concrete. I don't know if I showed this in the video because I just have been focusing on the voiceover. This lower riser, I put it at the top and I mark it to the stringer since they're already blocked in place. And that if the top and bottom then are exactly the same, then everything else will be nice and straight. On long runs, I would also do that to the middle stringer. Now notice that riser is a little short. Remember in the previous video, I cut them an 1/8 short. And then on this side of the stair where the half wall goes, I just make it nice and flush. There's really no reason to do that. They could actually be a little bit long and it wouldn't matter because with a 3/4 inch piece on the side of the stringers, drywall will slip down there. If we had a skirt board, I would use 1.5 inches. In fact, I showed that on the last video. Last time I did stairs last fall. It's just the way I work right-handed is I can hold that stringer and I can move it up and down to make sure it's flush. You can see that nail did crack that riser a little bit. That is completely a non-issue. Also, I'm using the Paslode XP nailer because then I don't drag any hoses through any of the glue. Every time I use glue, it ends up on my hands. So your mileage may vary. Again, like I mentioned in a previous video, or maybe it's a future video at this point, I don't know. Starting last year, I do have a relationship with Paslode. Paslode is the nailer that I learned. We used the impulse nailers for years and they just didn't work very well. But about 6 or 7 years ago at this point, I reviewed this cordless XP nailer. It's been fantastic for us. So anytime that we don't want to drag a hose, this is the nailer that we go with. Downside, you only get one stick of nails. The upside, thing is super lightweight and there's no hose.
Why I did that top one. That was just kind of dumb.
I swapped out the nails from 3-inch nails for framing 2x to 2 3/8, and they're a ring shank nail. I get a lot of criticism, primarily on YouTube. Why am I not using screws? It's overkill. This glue is insane. I've showed it before. We've glued like 2x6 to the underside of floor joists, and 3 of us could hang off of it with no fasteners. Because I have such high confidence in the glue, and there's other glues out there that are good too, glue really is the key to the squeak free. Then it doesn't matter if I use screws. I could use the Paslode Tetra Grip. I could use any kind of deformed nail, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm using a ring shank nail. Essentially, the nail is the clamp until the glue all dries. If on our way out after the house is fully dried, I'm gonna go tromping up and down these stairs, and I'll probably add some more fasteners. It kind of depends, but almost never. In fact, I can't think of a time that I have ever needed to add fasteners into the treads. And basically what my point is, right now, the wood's pretty dry, but we could get pretty wet before the roof goes on. And so that might cause things to swell and then dry out, and then that can cause things to move. That's why the glue is so important. So we want everything glued. I even glued the back of the riser or the treads. I don't think that's a necessary step personally. Remember, deflection and then drying, and then if we just don't do a very good job building it, the fact is wood will dry out. It will reach equilibrium, and when it gets really dry, like let's just say you had wood heat, you could really dry out the wood, and that's where you get drywall cracks and pops and things like that. That has never been an issue for us, but I still kind of plan for it. And I can say it's never been an issue for us because we live in the houses that we've built. I'm living in a house that I framed the stairs when I was an apprentice. Now, maybe technically I was a journeyman at that point, but they're over 20 years old. They don't squeak. And that was using the old OSI glue. I think I hand nailed it all. That was how I was taught to do stairs, was hand nail it all with galvanized nails. Anyway, the main point that I just want to emphasize, if we use high quality materials like Advantech Subfloor, which if you do the research, the reason why it's so heavy is it holds up so well to wet weather. Second, the 2x8 risers are so strong, and it gives us a good gluing surface and a good nailing surface. And then you can see I'm moving productively, but I'm not trying to break some kind of speed record because there's nothing more damaging to your reputation than squeaks. Well, besides failure, I guess. I was going to get lazy and just eyeball them. Instead, I can quickly scribe right down the center of the riser and then go through it, and I'm going to fasten the tread to that too. This is the step to me, at least in my experience. We used to use 1x8, and we would nail into the 1x8, but the 1x8 we just found over time, it would crack. And so we had to repair a couple of them where we pulled carpet off, and it was like, you know what? Why don't we just use 2x8? Because now I can glue it, which I glued the 1x8. The 2x8 just gives me a better surface to nail into. And as you know, when you go up and down stairs, your feet are always right there at the overhang. You know, run up, run down. So having 2x8, nailing into the 2x8, using really high quality glue, and then one extra stringer on the stairs so that basically your walk line where your feet land, that's where you have solid material. Bomb proof, as we like to. Actually, Matt Reisinger says bomber. Earlier I mentioned that I had the glue warming up on the dash in the truck. Well, in the meantime, I went ahead and took my measurements for the stair landing, and I'm going to cut that. Then it's all ready to go. All I have to do is glue and fasten it now that I can walk up the stairs. One thing that we can do as framers to speed up production is use techniques that are a little bit quicker but still accurate. So you notice I scribed a bunch of lines, I didn't snap lines. There's nothing wrong with snapping lines, but if you learn how to scribe, that's what the drywallers do. You get good and accurate at it, and then you save a little bit of time. So it's just one of those things. I didn't show gluing down the landing. I think you get the idea. It is glued. If you don't believe me, I can always post it as a YouTube short. Who cares? Okay, so I'm just sped up this last section. Nothing really to see here. I mark the top, bring that down to the bottom. Now I'm going to glue them all. Right, I have the 1x that was ripped out of Advantech when I ripped the treads. That is nailed to the side of the stringer so that drywall can slip between the stringer and the wall with just a little bit of play. That way the drywallers don't have to cut around stairs. Then it is just a matter of working my way up. You will notice that I missed one there. Is that the only one I'm going to miss? Nope. I think I missed another one somewhere. But that's easy. You just get down from below and pound them out and yank them. Missed nails can also be a source of squeaks. Okay, we are on the home stretch. I had to get out of here for my appointment. No rocket surgery here. Just having the right techniques, the right tools, the right glue, the right process. I'm just trying to show the principles. You could apply these to the tools and materials that you have available, and that's fine. Notice that the glue does reduce as it was getting cold, and I was at the end of the can. That's why I put tried to run out the end of the can. That is enough glue in my experience. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Could go on and on and on. Thank you everybody for watching. Hope you learned something, even if it was the wrong way. We'll see you in the next video.